choice because where are you going to go? Like, you can't put up chairs yet. We're going to use them. So, but nonetheless, we want to, I guess, encourage you to be here. So, that being said, we're going to jump into our sermon series. We are going back to Exodus. Yay! I'm probably the only person. There might be 2 or 3 others, and one of them is Kayla because she gets excited about the Bible. I told you I'm a Bible geek. I think it's crazy, and I read it, and then and part of it for me is this. We have a tendency, right, to fall into the fairy tale syndrome. Do you guys know what that is? No? Oh, you're going to love it. All right, fairy tale syndrome is if you've heard something your whole life, right, you just accept it, regardless of how ridiculous it is, right? The 3 bears, right? Goldilocks and the 3 bears. If you hear that story, right, that is a ridiculous story. It makes no sense, and we do the same thing with our Bible, right? Like, we will just be like, oh, yeah, he split the Red Sea. That was cool. And, like, you ask no questions. You just accept it because the time of questions happened a long time ago, and someone's like, well, God just can do that, right? But you're like, did they see fish? Like, that was my favorite. I heard a kid say that one time, and I was like, I wonder if they did see the fish. Like, could you see them swimming around like an aquarium? Like, world's first aquarium was the Red Sea. That's neat, right? So there's lots of questions. And sometimes we read a story or we've heard a story so many times, we just forget to stop and go, what is that? Why did that happen? What's going on here? And so that's why I love Exodus. And so today what we're going to do, though, is if you don't know, I want to always catch you up just really briefly. And then actually, I'm really cool today. I got a video, and you can enjoy a little 2-minute clip here. But before we start that, I think you need to understand why we're in Exodus. So out of all the books in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, probably the one that defines the people of Israel the most is Exodus. Now, you could obviously be like, well, why not Genesis? Well, but Exodus is where God said, you were my people. So you got to wrap your head around this. This is like their love story, right? I think all of us here, like if you think about your love story, right? Like when you met, right? That's like one of your favorite stories. It's like, there was other stories. You have other things that have happened. You've done other things with your spouse. But that love story, that the way you met, maybe the way you got proposed to, maybe the way you got married, like that's the story. That's the thing, right? And we hold on to that, like grab tight of it, right? Because that's important to us. And the people of Israel have kind of done that. This is the consummation of God and the people of Israel's vow together, their covenant together. So the question is, well, that's good for them. Why are we reading it? Well, it's beneficial for a couple of reasons, all right? First, whether we realize it or not, there's an enormous amount of symbolism foreshadowing Christ in this book. There's actually, all of the Old Testament does this, but Exodus is really neat because Exodus is literally about saving people, right? We talk about saving people all the time. I think that's the favorite thing Protestants talk about. Probably the favorite thing Baptist people talk about. But they're like, we got to save people. And this is a book about people getting saved. It is. It is a book about people getting saved. And more importantly, it's a book about our similarities to the Israelites. I hate to tell y'all are not Moses. Neither am I. We're not Moses. We are not. Okay? When you look at what Moses does, even today, what Moses does is impressive. It should shock us. There's a reason why God chose him. And he fails. We're not Moses. We're the Israelites. We're the complaining, whiny, grumpy people who God keeps giving us stuff and then we complain about it. That's us. We fall into that category, right? But it points to our similarity fresh out of Egypt. And I think we're the same way. Most of us, we're surrounded by Egypt. We're surrounded by a worldly culture. And we struggle with a lot of the same things. And we can learn so much there. And then lastly, I think this is the most important part. It's God's desire to display to his people who Yahweh is. That's my favorite thing I have found in Exodus more than any of the other things is God's constant reminder to the Israelite people, this is who I am. This is the kind of God that Yahweh is. One of the stories I mentioned a few weeks back when we were talking about walking is the first place that God brings them to is a place they call Mara. Mara means bitterness. The water there was bitter. Now imagine being completely thirsty. And when they say bitter, they don't mean like, oh, that tastes funny, like hose water. No, that's delightful, okay? This is, you can't consume it water. This is dead body in the water, right? Like it's something gross in there and you don't want to drink it, it'll kill you kind of water. And what do? They complain. They go, oh my gosh, I'm so thirsty. And now we have water we can't even drink. This is even worse. And God goes, oh yeah, watch this. Boop. Now that water's drinkable. And then he tells them something. He says, I am the God who heals you. Think about that context of that. God is showing them that no matter how bitter their heart is, their water, how hurt they might be, how broken and inconsumable they might feel their life is, God has the ability to heal that. What an amazing lesson that he's teaching them. That's why Exodus is awesome. That's why Exodus is so good. So much for us to glean from it. But we got to get out of our heads that we've heard all the stories and know how it goes, because we're missing stuff. Okay? So you got a brief video here. It's about 2.5 minutes long, just to catch you up from the beginning to where we are. And then we'll jump into it. We're going to be in Exodus 32 if you brought your Bible and you want to listen to it. John, click the video for me, please. Make sure the volume's up.
The book of Exodus. In the first video, we explored chapters 1 through 18, which tell the foundational story of how God rescued the enslaved Israelites by confronting and defeating Pharaoh, while offering a way of escape through the blood of the Passover lamb. God then delivered his people by bringing them through the waters of the sea and then into the wilderness, where, surprisingly, they grumbled and complained. Now, the second half of the book of Exodus opens as Moses leads Israel to the foot of Mount Sinai, where God invites the nation of Israel to enter into a covenant relationship. And here we reach another key moment in the biblical storyline, because this is picking up and developing God's promise to Abraham. So remember, from the book of Genesis, God promised that through Abraham's family, somehow he would restore his blessing to all of the nations. And here we find out more. God says that if Israel obeys the terms of the covenant, they will be so shaped by God's laws and teaching and justice that they will become a kingdom of priests, which means that they will become God's representatives and show all of the other nations what God is truly like. Now, the people of Israel eagerly accept the offer, and so God's presence appears right on the top of Mount Sinai in the form of cloud and lightning and thunder. And Moses goes up as their representative, and God opens with the basic terms of the covenant, the famous 10 Commandments. These are like the basic terms of the agreement, how the Israelites and God are going to relate to each other. And then after this come another collection of commands which fill out the first 10 in more detail. There are laws about Israel's worship, about social justice, how they are to live together, all shaping Israel into a nation of justice and generosity that's different from the other nations. So Moses writes down all of these laws, and he brings them down to the people who, again, eagerly agree to enter into this covenant with God. And once they do so, God takes the relationship forward another step. He tells Moses that he wants his holy and divine and good presence to come and dwell right in the midst of Israel, which develops another aspect of God's covenant promises. So remember, after humanity's rebellion in the garden, it was access to God's presence that was lost. But now it's through the family of Abraham that God's presence is becoming once again accessible through this covenant relationship, and first with Israel, and then somehow one day to all nations.
So we're going to, you got to remember not to turn that on before you walk in front of it. So, title of the slide this week, Backs Out of the Mountain, right? And here's what's cool, okay? So you saw the back up there, right? God's pulled them out of Egypt. He's taught them who he is. They're at Mount Sinai. And it's really important that we remember that this, more than anything, was a wedding. Okay? That what was happening was a wedding. So what I want you to do is we're gonna read out. I'm going to read to you the first 14 verses of chapter 32 in Exodus. Okay, and I want you to listen closely, like take off the blinders here, because some of you may have heard this story. I know I had. If you haven't heard the story, ask all the really good questions. You're the ones who have the best questions, just so you know. Okay, so let's jump into it in starting in chapter 32, verse 1. When the people saw that Moses delayed in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said to him, "Come, Make gods for us who will go before us, because this Moses, the man who brought us from the land of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." Aaron replied, "Take off the gold rings that are on the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people took off the gold rings that were on their ears, and they brought them to Aaron. And he took the gold from them, fashioned it with an engraving tool, and made it into an image of a calf. Then they said, "Israel, these are your gods who brought you up from the land of Egypt." And when Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of it and made an announcement. "There will be a festival to the Lord tomorrow." And I'm going to preface this, that word Lord is Yahweh. Okay? Early the next morning they arose, offered burnt offerings, presented fellowship offerings. The people sat down to eat, to drink, and they got up to party. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Go down at once, for your people you brought up from the land of Egypt have acted corruptly. They have quickly turned from the way I commanded them. They have made for themselves an image of a calf. They have bowed down to it, sacrificed to it, and said, 'Israel, these are your gods who brought you up from the land of Egypt.' And the Lord also said to Moses, 'I have seen this people, and they are indeed a stiff-necked people. Now leave me alone so that my anger can burn against them and I can destroy them. Then I will make you into a great nation.' But Moses sought the favor of the Lord his God. 'Lord, why does your anger burn against your people? You brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and a strong hand. Why should the Egyptians say, he brought them out with an evil intent to kill them in the mountains and to eliminate them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce anger and relent concerning the disaster planned for your people. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. You swore to them by yourself and declared, I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky, and will give your offspring all this land that I have promised, and they will inherit it forever.' So the Lord relented concerning the disaster that he said he would bring on the people." This is some wild nonsense. I don't know if y'all got any of that there, but man, like I had so many questions. Every time I read it, I'm like, man, why did they do this? Why did they do that? Right? Here's the wildest part, and this is why I said what I said before. I want you to remember that this is the middle of a marriage ceremony. If you go back to the days before, okay, couple of prefaces. One, Moses goes up to the mountain and receives the 10 Commandments, okay? Then he goes back down the mountain with the 10 Commandments. And it's not like what we thought, like it's like, oh, he's going to carry these tablets down. No, he goes down and tells them, hey, this is what God said. He hasn't received the tablets yet. Those haven't happened. So whatever movie with Charlton Heston you have seen, Charles Heston in there, that's not right yet, okay? That can't be the only equivalent you have of the Lord and the 10 Commandments were given to Moses. Moses goes down the mountain and he goes, these are the 10 Commandments of the Lord. And he says that if you adhere to these, I will bless you. You will be my people. I will care for you. You will be a great nation, but you're going to be holy and priest-like. And they all go, yup, I want that. That sounds awesome. And if you look at all the little things that are happening, they are directly reflected in the marriage ceremonies of the Jewish people. It's a marriage. It's a marriage. It's an intimate relationship between two people where both people are promising to be faithful to one another. So, that brings us to chapter 32. Yahweh lays out these rules, right? The parameters of this relationship, right? He's like, hey, I want to be in a relationship with you. Here's the deal, right? I need you to be faithful. I need you not to worship other gods. I need you not to make other gods. And I need you not to give your heart away to other gods. I need you to love me, right? So love God. And I need you to love each other. Can we do that? That's what the 10 Commandments basically say. All right? A lot of people will twist the 10, they'll take and be like, man, God's got all these rules. God's asking for something we ask out of each other. Think about every marriage that you know. Every good, healthy marriage, what is it? Hey, I need you not to cheat on me. I need you to be faithful in our relationship, and I need you not to beat the kids. Like, that's pretty much it. Like, that's what we're shooting for here. And though it might be in some sense, it's kind of funny and silly. On the other end, it is. For both parties, I think both situations, we were joking, walking down the hallway, right? Like, most men getting married have no clue what we're actually saying we're doing. We're like, I'm getting married. Like, I like this person, and she likes me, and, like, I think it's great, right? And I don't mean it from the sense of, like, oh, man, he's got a life of misery for. No, it's just we don't realize, like, there's a passage in Ephesians we should all read as men and be like, hey, you got to die to that person every day, right? Like, she's going to say some stuff, and you're going to have to, like, be grace-filled. Like, filled with grace. And guess what? She's supposed to encourage you when you're being a big dum-dum. And, like, it's supposed to be, we just don't get it, right? Like, we forget. We're out there. And so the people agree to do this. They say, yes, we will make the Lord our God. And not only, like, they make a chant about it later, okay? They make a whole prayer called the Shema, where they say, yes, God is one. We will worship God and only God because he is one. We will listen and obey him. Sort of. And then Moses goes to get the paperwork. Okay? That's what's happening here. Moses goes to get the paperwork, and before the ink is dry, they've already committed adultery. Like, that's what we're talking about here. Moses told them, hey, I got to go up the mountain. It's going to take 40 days and 40 nights. I will be back in 40 days and 40 nights. And then he goes up the mountain. And he actually had encouraged them, hey, we can go. Like, you guys want to go? And they're like, absolutely not. That is terrifying. Like, have you seen the mountain right now? Like, it's on fire. Like, we can't be before God. And good for them. Kudos for them for knowing that they were sinful. You know what I mean? Good for them. They knew their heart. They knew that they couldn't withstand God's presence. And so God goes, yeah, you're right. Like, fence it up. Don't let them come close. Y'all stay away. If you come even close, if you get even close, they'll die. So God and Moses, it says that God actually writes out the commandments, fills the tablet, both sides, with his own finger, right? And because they can't count to 40, I guess, they go, man, we don't know what happened to this Moses character. We need a God. Yeah, we don't know what happened to him. He just, I guess he's gone forever. That's some... there's a medical term for this. I think it's prescribed to ADHD people, right? And it has to do with, like, how if something's not physically present, like, they disappear. It's kind of like the reason why peekaboo works on kids, because they don't realize, like, if they can't see your face, you still exist. And I feel like, is this what's happening here? Like, they're like, well, we haven't seen Moses in a couple of days. I guess he's gone forever. And so then they do something as just unbelievable. They get antsy. They get anxious. And so when the time actually draws near for Moses' return, this is the thing. Moses is almost done. Like, it's literally almost day 40 when this all begins to go down. They begin to worry and panic and become fearful. Let's take a quick peek at that. It's right in the beginning of verse 1. It's at the end of verse 1, It says, this is what they say. They gather around Aaron, and they say to him, come, make gods for us who will go before us. Because this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we do not know what has happened to him. We don't know. Make us a God to go before us, because we don't know what happened to Moses. Their lack of patience, their lack of understanding causes them to become fearful. And so in their fear, they drift to what they know. They drift and go back to Egypt in their hearts. They can't physically run to Egypt, not after the whole thing with Pharaoh, but their hearts run back to what they know. Their hearts run back to the paganism which they came from. They run back to having to have a physical item to worship. And they ask Aaron, who's the only, really the remaining elder there, right? Hey, make us a God. Make us a God. One we can see, one we can understand, one we can control. We need to touch it and feel it and know that we won't control. And in a sense, the bride commits adultery while the groom is busy trying to get his name on the paper. And it's as if they're incapable of being in this relationship here. It shows the reality of their heart. This cheating, unfaithful heart. You can imagine the amount of pain and anger this would cause. Imagine that. Like, put yourself in those shoes. You get married, you're busy signing the paperwork, and you look up, and the bride is over there making out with the best man. Right? The groom has run off with one of the maid of honors. Like, how horrible would that be? Like, how angry, how frustrated, how embarrassed would you be? I mean, it's been 39 days. If you go on what the Bible tells us in the account. They're on day 39. Like, Moses is like, I'm packing up. I just got to grab the last couple items. We're right on time. Things are going swimmingly. Got this cool new tablet. It's going to be fantastic. What's amazing is that we should be shocked God is angry, right? Like, I remember reading this, and for a long time hearing people go, well, God wasn't really angry. I'm like, I feel like he would be angry. I'd be pissed off, right? And in some ways, either we do two things in life, right? We either make God too human, or we don't make him human enough, right? Like, we forget we are made in his image, right? But we forget Jesus said something about living life in abundance. Watching Jesus cry, watching Jesus get mad and flip a table over. Like, we forget Jesus had all the emotions. It's what you do with those emotions. What you allow those emotions to drive you to matter. Yes, Yahweh's angry. Think about it. For one, they're literally writing the consecration. They're like, I'm making the wedding certificate. I'm writing it down so you'll remember it. Last time I told someone to do it, they didn't listen to me. Eve and Adam. So I wrote it down this time. We were almost done. What are you doing? Second, how many times has God proven that he is God? How many times does Yahweh have to do something to convince these people that he's in charge, he's powerful, he loves them? Think about it. Plagues. He protected Israel. All these plagues are happening. Keep in mind, every time that there was a massive plague, oh, your cattle didn't get killed by hail. That's weird. Oh, you had light in the middle of complete darkness. That's weird. Passover protects Israel. You put the blood of the lamb over your doorway, your kids won't die. Everyone else in Egypt is crying right now, but your firstborn are safe. Weird. In the wilderness, he protects Israel. Oh, you're thirsty. Oh, look at this wonderful oasis I brought you to. Plenty of water for all of these people. What an incredible story. The Red Sea. Oh, Pharaoh wants to murder you. Here's a split sea for you to walk on. Oh, and don't worry, because when he tries to run through it, I'm just going to crash it and kill them all. Congratulations. I saved you once again. What is wrong with these people? What does he have to do to prove to them that he's faithful? They literally broke the first 3 commandments. All 3 of them. All 3. All of them about loving God. They broke all of them. They haven't even gotten it in writing yet, and they've broken them. All God says, hey, just be faithful. Don't worship any other gods. Don't bow down before any other gods. Don't make an idol that looks like another God. Don't say you belong to me and then don't do the things I ask you to do. We can't even get out of we can't even get off the mountain. We can't even leave the mountain before you're breaking it. They failed immediately. And so he tells Moses, right, to leave him and let his anger destroy them. In fact, the word they use actually is weird because if you read it like straight dry, it says, let my anger eat them. Like, that's weird. But when you think about the word eat and all the different variations, the word consume comes into place. Let my anger consume them. And then Yahweh would make a great nation out of Moses. That's a heck of a temptation, right? Like, I mean, think about it. When they complain, they don't go to the Lord. No, in fact, the only time that it says they go to God, to Yahweh as a people, is right before the Red Sea. That's the only time. Every other time, what do? They run to Moses and grumble and complain. Oh, Moses, God brought me into the desert to die. Really? Like he keeps giving you everything. He's literally a pillar of fire at night. He's like guiding us everywhere. Why do you think that? You want to go back and work 7 days a week with no pay? That's a terrible decision. So I know, it's amazing because you would think Moses would be like, well, I mean, some of these people kind of suck. Like, some of these people are terrible. I don't want to be around them either. But Moses' response is fantastic, right? God's wrath is at hand. His judgment's about to be laid out. And Moses seeks for his favor. Verse 11, it says, Moses sought the favor of the Lord his God. Lord, why does your anger burn against your people you brought out of Egypt? I want you to pay attention to how this happens, okay? Because I missed this all the other times I read this. When I was reading through it this week, I was like, that's interesting. Yahweh tells Moses, your people that you brought out of Egypt, they're the ones who are wrong. Moses goes, no, your people that you brought out of Egypt. Now, normally I'm like, look at these two dudes pointing at each other going, he's the problem. He's the problem. But I want you to understand, remember Moses at one time did have power. In fact, Moses was one of the most powerful men on earth. And Moses murdered a man because that man didn't listen to him. He took God's will into his own hand. God is teaching Moses something here. He's giving Moses an out, right, in a sense. But he's not really. He's testing Moses. He's like, I want to know that you have my will in mind. I want to know that when things are about to go bad, I'm going to give you, one, an example of what I want you to do. But two, I want you to know yourself, to keep your mindset in the right place. Whose people are these? And who brought them out of Egypt? And if you don't believe me, think about how they talked about Moses. Verse 1, it says, we don't know what happened to Moses, the man who brought us out of Egypt. Even the people were beginning to look at Moses like a god. So maybe they might have made a calf and worshiped a calf, but let's go ahead and be honest, they were already worshiping somebody else other than God. That should be just should be an absolute warning to us, every one of us. One, for those in leadership, be warned, because the temptation will be mighty. People will want to worship you. One of the things I resisted greatly going into ministry was because I grew up where pastors were on pedestals. Pastor couldn't do no wrong. Even if you knew he was wrong. Even if you knew, he's like, ain't nobody going to believe it, because pastors can't do no wrong. They're perfect, right? We talked about Catholicism this morning, because for a couple of years I was Catholic. You think a pastor can't do wrong. You definitely can't do wrong as a priest. Okay? Like, you got no chance. So for my friends from the Catholic organizations, hey, priests can't do zero wrong. But here's the reality. Yes, we can. We were vile sinners just like everybody else. But too many people think that because God has given them a calling to be on the stage, it makes them something more than they are. It's never about you. It's always about what God wants to do. From a leadership perspective, you have to fight daily. You have to be diligent. You have to be reminded regularly. And you have to surround your people who will tell you and remind you, your poo stinks. It smells bad. You're screwing up. You're not perfect. The other part that we have to be wary of is we have to be cautious about who we think we're lifting up on a pedestal. There is only one God. There is only one Christ. And there is everything else. And though I have fallen into the temptation of putting men that I thought were amazing speakers, gifted orators, blessed in the wisdom of the Bible, and said, man, these guys are amazing. Surely God has blessed their life. They speak to thousands and thousands of people. I had to be reminded that no, they're not God. God chose them, right, to lead, but it was never about them. It's always about God. We have to guard our hearts. The Israelites had already cheated, right? We think about what Jesus said about lust and adultery. He says, if you've ever lusted after a woman, you've committed adultery. All right, now equate that to what God's saying about being faithful to him. If you've ever lifted anything else, if you've ever put anybody else on a pedestal before me, you've already committed adultery to me. You've already been unfaithful. The golden calf was a symptom. The actual problem was their hearts. They had already lifted Moses up. Here's what I love is Moses' response, though, right? Moses didn't buy into that. He was faithful. And he goes, why would you do this? And I love it because he gives us some things, right? He seeks favor as an intercessor, just like Abraham did for Sodom and Gomorrah. Moses doing the same thing for Israel. And I think it is good. There's a good lesson here for us as we intercede. Here's some tips. Moses lays down a little framework for us that's very helpful. So as you think about praying, when I say intercede, I mean you pray for others, right? You intercede for someone. You pray for your child. You pray for your wife, your husband. You pray for your friends. You pray for your family. This is a pattern you can follow that's really helpful. First, he directly challenges God. Read a psalm from time to time and tell me you're like, whoa, David. David talks about like, man, my enemy's got a knife to my throat, right? He's bearing down on me. He's chewing my leg off. He's very direct. He tells God exactly how he feels. Moses doesn't pull back punches. He's like, God, like you're going to let Egypt talk about how you were vile and evil because you brought these people out here to murder them? That's what he said. He calls God evil. The word hara, evil. He says, you had an evil intent. He doesn't pull back any punches. He tells them exactly how he's feeling. Be honest with the Lord. Not that hard, but incredibly hard, right? Like we always feel like we got to daint it up. No, God is very capable of handling all your problems. He's well aware you're in them. He knows how you think. You might as well just say them. But he's direct. The second thing, he's clear on what he's asking for. He tells the Lord, turn your anger from these people. Don't burn them up. Don't destroy them like you want to. He tells Yahweh what he desires. Too often we're like, well, God, if you want to kind of do something, if you want to do it, it'd be nice. God, I don't want to this. I would like to not suffer all the time. Like, I'm hurting. Please heal me. My friend will not accept Jesus. Break their heart. Jesus even tells us, pray people who are unrepentant into the hands of the devil. That's what he tells his disciples. That's how serious he's talking about prayer. Like it's important. He wants them to be changed. He wants us to be honest and to ask for the things we actually need. You have people in your life, right? And they just won't tell you what they actually want to tell you. They kind of beat around the bush and hope you is there not more frustrating a relationship than that? God's like, be honest. Tell me what you're worried about. Tell me your fears, and then tell me what you want. I'm not saying what you want's right. He's probably going to say no to a lot of the things you want. But sometimes he's going to say, okay, I'll answer that. Lastly, he prays God's word back to God. And essentially, he prays promises. He goes, God, don't forget the promise you made to Abraham, to Isaac, to Israel. Don't forget your promise. You promised. You told them they would be a great nation. You told them, you can't. You're unchangeable. You can't break your promise. You can't break your promise. If you don't know what to pray, you got a whole book filled with prayer. It's all in here. There's like several books in here of prayer. You just read those until you feel like, you hit a good mark to stop. You don't have to always have all the fancy words. God gave them to you. He told you. And part of the thing he wants you to do is to bury them in your heart, because there are going to be places where we are going to feel just like the Israelites, and we're going to panic, and we're going to freak out, and we're going to be like, God, I'm impatient. Oh, my goodness. So God does respond, and he relents. He turns his anger away from them, his wrath. This is the word you will need to remember, his judgment. God's not like suddenly angry like me and you get when someone annoys us to that point. He has all the right to be. I mean, I would be embarrassed. My bride goes and cheats on me. I hadn't even made it out we hadn't had one day together technically, waiting on the legal paperwork to come through. But his judgment is what we need to remember. God cannot be amongst sin, right? Because he's holy. Sin will not exist around him. God was just going to bring his judgment about to his people. He was not going to stay his judgment. He was going to allow it to happen. His anger was going to burn in them, reminiscent of the same way that his judgment will burn at the end of time. It's important that we remember a few things that should strike us about this passage as we close today, and I will go quickly. First is that the Israelites, this should strike us. Like I told you before, we're the Israelites, right? Think about this. The Israelites, because they did not know exactly what Yahweh was doing, they didn't have an exact understanding of what was going on, even though they had exact day and time. They didn't know exactly what was happening. This gave rise to fear and anxiety. And fear and anxiety caused them to be disobedient and unfaithful. That is the exact same way that we are, you and I. When we don't have control, when we don't know what's going on, when God is doing something beyond our vision, we are susceptible. We are most likely going to become filled with fear and anxiety. And then how do we respond? Well, if we're not walking in step with the Lord, our response is going to be disobedience and unfaithfulness, right? And then it shows up like this. I got it. I'll just do it. I can't tell you how many times I've put my foot in that hole. And every time I pull it out, hurting. That's why my prayer now, more often than not, is like, God, I am a dumb man. I have zero wisdom in this world. Please shut the doors I'm too stupid to know not to walk through. Please, protect me from me. That's always my prayer now. I don't necessarily need to know God's will. I just need to know what do I not need to do. Because he will always guide me faithfully. For many of us, though, it can look like we try to grab hold of a situation, or we just panic, right? I look at it this way. At the end of the day, that whole idea of fight or flight is still a real thing. God, I think, embedded that in us to keep us alive when animals could still eat us regularly, okay? It's like, man, you guys are dumb. We're going to have to pick. You got to pick. We're going to give you two decisions, all right? And based on what your abilities are, you do one or the other. So part of it's to fight, right? That decision of, I'm just going to sit here and keep whacking away with my sword and get eaten. The other part's to run. And running's not always the right thing either. Think about it. When God's trying to get you through a hard situation, what do people do? They like to run. Oh, we got to walk through this wilderness. What did Israel want to do? I want to go back home. I want to run home. I want to run away. This seems hard. Most of the time that God doesn't show you what's going on is because if you knew, you wouldn't hang around. You wouldn't hang around. Like, you mean I got to do what? I got to go where? I got to suffer with what? No, thank you. I'm good. I don't want that. We're not always going to know what's going on. Second, the Israelites struggled with gratitude. Woo! They struggled with gratitude. What did they eat that morning? What do you think they ate that morning? At the base of a mountain in the middle of a desert. Manna. Where'd that come from? Where had that been coming from for over a year? The Lord, Yahweh. And yet they had the audacity to go, we don't have a God who loves us. Guess we got to make one. Over and over, God had put on a full display. A display I think many of us would give anything to see. I mean, who here wouldn't want to be like, if I could choose a place and time, could I go to the Red Sea? Like, how amazing would that be? Could I get a piece of manna? I always wondered, what does that taste like? Is it like coconut? Is it granola? Like, what's going on here? Is it like an icy? I don't know, but I want to know. We would beg for that. Yet, though God never missed a day, there wasn't a day they didn't go by where they didn't have enough. They were unfaithful. Why? Because they weren't grateful. They didn't have a heart of gratitude. They had a heart that kept telling them it's not enough. He even warns them. He's like, look, if you get extra and you try to keep extra, it's going to rot. It's going to be filled with maggots. The only day you can get extra is on Saturday or the day before your Sabbath. That's the only day you can have extra. And that's only enough. And if you get more than you should, it'll rot. He warns them. He's teaching them. It's enough. I'm faithful. You don't have to plan. You don't have to do extra because I'm telling you I've got you. They didn't have a heart of gratitude. The other is that they think they know better. Lastly is because we're the same way, right? The other picture in this, and as I say, this will be the last thing here. No, I'm wrong. I told you wrong. Second to last thing. It's a reminder about God. God's anger here that he wants to unleash is not an unrighteous anger. It's not an impulsive anger. It's not a temporal anger. It is an anger that is just and good. God is a good and just God. He had in all rights to be angry. He had in all rights to judge a people who couldn't be faithful for 39 days. No wonder he was angry. But it wasn't that he was all of a sudden in a moment angry, because God knew that that was going to happen. He was already very aware. These people ain't even going to keep it together till we get down. You know, it's funny. I always wonder if God's sense of humor is like when we're like the Israelites. Like God's like, do you want to be my people? And we're like, yes! Are you going to be faithful to me? 100%. And in the back of his mind, he's like, no, you're not. I already know what you're going to do. You're not even going to, 39 days? It's not that God wanted to kill them, crush them, have evil intent. No, God was just going to be like, all right, well, judgment's coming now. I'm going to judge you now. Because I'm holy and I'm just. And what just is here is that you would receive the consequences of your sin. I've been holding it back. The Bible says that. That's why Christ hasn't come yet. God's restraining Christ that many might be found, that the last person would be found. That everybody who could be saved would make it on board. That's the visual you should see. And lastly is Moses. Because this is my favorite part about this whole thing. And Moses, we talked about the leadership part, but I want you to understand that a couple thousand years from now, there is going to be another intercessory person on another mountain who's going to find favor in the Lord and save God's people. It's my favorite part. Because this story is foreshadowing us and foreshadowing who Christ is. See, we are the adulterers. We are the ones who we can't even help ourselves. Like, we are just slap full of sin. And we deserve every bit of God's anger. And yet Christ is interceding with us. He has found favor with the Lord, right? And it's not just for this little tribal nation now at the base of a mountain. It is every bit of creation. And this time everybody will find reprieve. Because it wasn't for just one act of sin, but for every act of sin. It wasn't just for one nation, it was for every nation. It wasn't just for one group of people, it was for every tongue and every tribe. That we might all have an opportunity to be redeemed. This is a beautiful narrative that points us to how Jesus is the standing in between us and God's righteousness and his just wrath. That is why it is so beautiful. God is trying to teach his people, including us, that Christ is the one who intercedes for us. Christ is the one who stands between us and eternal damnation, eternal absence from his presence. I'm going to have the worship team come up. I should have pulled them up a little earlier, but I didn't. But as we leave this week, that is what I hope you are. One, I hope you are in awe of God's word. that he was orchestrating this from the beginning of times, that this wasn't just happenstance. 2, you should be in absolute awe and wonder of a Savior who steps in front of God's wrath for you. It should inspire you. It should encourage you in your weakness because you are going to sin. It is inevitable. You are going to fall short of the mark, perhaps here in the next hour. We'll probably be grumbling here shortly, right? And yet God is still good and faithful because Christ, he's interceding for us. More importantly and lastly, it should inspire you to tell every person you meet, every person you come across, every coworker, every family, every friend, every neighbor, about the one who gave his life for me and you, who took on our sin, who not only did he abate God's wrath, he absorbed God's wrath. He didn't just say, God, don't be angry. He said, God, be angry at me. I mean, that's fantastic. That is good news, and you should share it with as many people as you know. Because I don't know about you, but I feel like we live in a world that feels hopeless a lot. And we are surrounded by people who just need hope. And there is no good hope outside of Christ. It doesn't mean that you need to get on a corner with a mic and a speaker and be like, you're going to hell, okay? If that's your gifting, so be it, okay? I'm not the one to tell you what the Lord should tell you to do. But you could definitely invite a friend to church, invite a friend to coffee, invite a family over to break bread. You should definitely take an opportunity to ask how someone's doing and spend 5 minutes praying with them, maybe. Love someone that it's hard to love, kind of that neighbor that's not your favorite. Share your testimony when the Spirit leads you. But those are things we do. It's these stories. They're more than just Bible stories. They're more than just a fun, fantastical thing that happened in the mist. It's a reminder of what Jesus did every day. Be reminded. Be encouraged, be inspired this week. Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. God, I thank you